Hi, this is the first video in food etiquette series. This is basic manners. So this is the very first lesson a dog that comes to me on day one will get. And as I said in the introduction, the dog is expected to sit and wait calmly for their meal, and then they'll be given. And as you can see, Cagey's pretty hungry. He's taking up eating vegetarian at the moment. So we'll get round and we'll do it, and so he can have some breakfast. So there's several ways of doing it. As I said, I tether all my dogs, and except for the very odd aggressive dogs. So if you're tether training, then you can generally just prepare the meal, because you've got the dog there and you do your little corrections, and your correction sounds to keep the dog calm while you're doing it. If the dog's a nightmare where you're trying to get it and you're not tether training and it's jumping everywhere, number one, you don't want that. Even though you're not feeding the dog, you want the dog calm. In fact, you always want the dog calm. You don't want it stimulated. A stimulated dog is a naughty dog. A stimulated dog doesn't think clearly and makes mistakes, makes bad decisions. So around food, that can be horribly dangerous. So if you don't have the dog tethered, or if you've got the dog tethered but at this point it's just out of control, take that dog, crate it, put it in another room, something. Go and prepare your meal. Put your meal down where you want to feed the dog, just like this. Then go get your dog. If you're tether training and you've got good control over your dog, which is the way I do it nearly all the time, occasionally I have to separate a dog just to start with, then you can do that and you can bring the food out and you can place it down. So, Koji, sit. So you can walk around. I come up here, this is where I'm going to feed it. I can simply use that tether to hold the dog back, put the food out here, so my face and everything's away, and I have room to actually pull that dog back. And if he goes to get up, then I just step back and guide him back into that nice sit. And like I said, if you've had to separate the dog, then get your food ready and then lead the dog in. Any of those is good. The other option you have is tethering your dog to a fence, a table leg or something like that, where the dog is on a small tether and can be controlled so it can't jump or anything. And then there's another way that you can get the dog to sit calmly, and I'll show you that in a minute. But if you're comfortable having the dog under control, and this is the way I normally do it, is the dog will be tethered to me, I'll put the food down like that. But if you put the food down first, then put the dog on a lead and brought it out with me. Yes. Then you simply lead it up, just away from the food a little bit, and then he'll auto sit because that's what he's taught, but you'll simply either use a treat and guide him up beside you. If you've been working on sit during, this is your first day, you've been working on that sit during the first day, you'll either be able to just guide him up or just bring him up with a little double tap of your lead here and guide him into position. I don't want you to tell him to sit, because this is an auto sit. So you want to stop before the food, or you want to bring the food out and you want your dog to sit. So once the dog's trained, they don't need to be on lead, for instance. You just bring the food out and they'll sit and wait for it. So that's what you're looking for. So I don't say sit to the dog. I want it to be an auto sit. So this is also the beginning of teaching a dog auto sit. Now I'm beginning to teach it to stay, because I'm not saying stay, because I don't want to. I want the dog to sit and automatically stay. I don't want to have to go, Koji, sit, Koji, stay. I just want him to sit and stay there until I give him another order. Or lay down and stay until I give him another order. In this case, I'm going to bring him to the food. So if he goes to lunge at the food, all I'm doing is a little correction double tap, like that. Again, it's gentle, it's just getting his focus. And I'll use the correction word, ha, which is short, sharp. Okay, to startle the dog a little bit, to get his attention. I don't want to go no, 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 because the dog's got no idea what no means if I don't teach him. If I startle him, it's a bit more like, another dog startling him. So dogs get that. know you need to teach, or it means nothing to them. So that, and it tends to be more effective because it tends to keep emotion out far better. Okay, and so I'll correct him until he's in that position. As soon as he guides back and he's calm, I go, good. And I immediately take him to the food. I don't want him to wait for 5 minutes because he hasn't done it before. I just want 1 or 2 seconds of calm to start with for that first bit. Lead him to the food. Go, G. Yes. Take. And because I corrected him for doing absolutely nothing to show you, he's going to act like a pup will. And that's, I don't know what take means. Right, so don't yell at him. Pick it up. Yes. As soon as he touches it, mark it. Touches it again. Yes, take. Good. As soon as your dog's taking it, walk away, leave it. Take the lead with you if you need to, but just leave your dog to eat. Right? I don't want to get in there, I don't want to pat it, I don't want to make a fuss of it. Nothing. Let it eat. It sat quietly, it did all that. Don't crowd it. Right? Leave the dog alone. People are all over their dogs from day one. This is why they get anxiety. Leave your dog to be a dog. He's got to learn to be able to do that. There will be a lesson where we then begin to teach our dogs it's alright to be touched when they're eating, but not now. And there's a difference between being touched and being mollycoddled and just, you know, embraced and grabbed and prodded and probed and been all over. Alright? Just leave your dog to eat. So once you've started to take, step back, let him eat, let him finish. Now for safety, because you don't know your dog, and also you're teaching your dog manners, so even for a pup, always practice safety. Once he's finished eating that bowl, I'm going to lead him away from the bowl. Koji, yes. I'm going to lead him away from the bowl. I'll put him in another room or in another area. In Koji's thing, I'll stop and he'll sit, and I'll come back, I'll get that bowl, I'll pick that bowl up and I'll take it away. And I'll do whatever I'm going to do with that bowl, wash it, whatever. The reason for that is, yes. The reason for that is I haven't taught him anything around food. So I don't want him to be there trying to deal with him and grabbing food, because that's when something can go wrong. It's also going to stress the dog a little bit. Okay, the dog needs to understand that it can trust you. So the reason you don't, you want to avoid food aggression is by getting the dog to trust you. So if I'm going to play with food, if I'm going to take food, that dog needs to have 100% trust that it's going to get it back or it's going to be replaced with something. Because food is a dog's most valuable resource, and it will resource guard when it thinks it's going to be taken from them. And why wouldn't it? We'd do the same thing. But if you teach a dog that if you take it, it gets it back, or it gets something back better, or even if you're going to give it back something of less value, it's still going to get it back, then a dog doesn't have a real reason to resource guard. And the way you get that is trust. Alright? So this is about, again, being very calm with the dog, guiding it back into a sit, helping it to relax, helping it to hold that sit, taking it, teaching what take is. Don't go take and the dog doesn't take and you go take, and get all upset and everything else. The dog doesn't understand take. As you saw even with Koji, I corrected him to show you how to correct him, and he's thinking, oh, what? I hadn't actually done anything. So he thinks when I go take, oh, should I or shouldn't I? What was he correcting me for? I've confused him to be able to show you. So that then gives me the opportunity, I pick it up and I simply give it to him. And I mark when it's all right. The moment he starts to take, I mark that, yes. So I get that marking, and then I teach him that take means take. So you've also got to teach your dog take, because most times you'll have to correct your dog so it's not jumping and lunging at the food. And then teach it take. And after a few days, it gets it. So even if you had to correct the dog, it begins to understand take means take. Alright, so what we're looking for in this is simply that you can bring your dog to the food, the dog will sit, the dog will be calm, the dog will be quiet, it will hold, and then the dog will take the food on take. Now each time you feed, And you can break the feed up into smaller amounts and do it half a dozen times spaced out during the day. It's what I do to teach it very quickly, and then I drop back to 3 once I get the idea. But every time you want to do this exact same thing, no matter how long it takes, the dog's got to wait. Like I said, you can tether to a fence or to a pole or anything like that. Go to sit. And all I do then is, if the dog's up and you know, jumping and everything, I just hold the bowl high. If I've got the dog tethered to something, it's another way of doing it. And generally, I bring it up. It's a bit like a lure, and the dog will sit, and then I'll go to put it down. And the dog will quite often go to follow it or lunge at it, in which case it comes back up. And you just rinse and repeat doing this until you can get to this point where you can put it here and the dog stays in a nice sit position. Okay? And then you just stand back up, give the command, and the dog can take. Alright? So that's a way of doing it if you've got the dog tethered to an object as well. Alright, I hope that helps. Again, always be careful around food. Alright, thank you.